Hi, this is Anil and welcome to PHP series. In this lesson, we are going to learn PHP filters, and first we will understand about it, and then we are going to understand why should you use it and how should you can use it in PHP. So PHP filters are used to validate and sanitize external input. Okay, it just validate that for example, let's go to the Facebook. Okay, and when you sign up in the Facebook, you can check there. It ask about email, enter your email, and then if you enter just your name, then it will tell invalid email, enter a valid email, like this. So how this works? It works into invalidate form. Okay, and we are going to understand the validate more deeply. So this is the example of PHP filter. First I started doc type HTML. This is the basic HTML format, and then HTML head style. Inside style I use the style part, that is the CSS part, so I am not going to explain this. After style, a head part I close it, and body part I started. Then a table, and the tr, that is table row, and td, that is table data. So I created two datas, filter name and filter id. So and then I just close table row, and then you can see I started a PHP with for each function. Inside for each I use filter list function as id filter. Okay, and then I use echo tr td filter, then td close, td started, then filter id. Inside this a filter, so it will show the filters list with id, what are the filters and what are its id. Let's begin with the next one, that is filter val function. Okay, and this is the example of filter val function. We started with a PHP, and you can check I just used two variables. The first one is str. Inside str I use the value h1 hello world, and in the second variable new str I use a function filter underscore var, and inside filter underscore var function I use str variable comma filter sanitize string, which sanitize the strings of this hello world, and then I print echo new str variable. Okay, now we will validate an integer. How the integer validate? This is a simple code. You can validate the integer. Just we are going to check, we are going to create a variable and just check the variable that the variable contain an integer value or not. Okay, so this is a small practice. So I created one integer int variable, and its value is 100, and then I use if statement. Inside if statement I use not filter underscore var, then I just write int, check int filter validate int, filter validate int or not, it will just check this, and then I use triple equals to false. If it's false, then print integer is valid. Okay, and else print integer is not valid. So this is the simple example. So using this validation form you can validate any integers or any email name or password, anything. Now we will understand validate an IP address, and this is how you can validate the IP address. All codes are simple, just I changed a new variable IP, that is 127.10.0.1. okay, as you can before see that whenever I use the output of PHP, I just write localhost slash. So what is the IP of localhost? Localhost IP is 127.0.0.1. so then I use if statement, that is not filter underscore var. Inside this I use IP, then comma filter validate IP. This is the function I use, filter validate IP, and it will validate the IP. And then I use triple equals to false, and if it's triple equals to false, then it will tell IP is valid IP. okay, else it will tell IP is not valid IP. Now we will validate an email, and this is how you can validate the email. Same, first we will create an variable with a email value, that is john.gmail.example.com, and then I just create an email equals to filter val email, and then filter sanitize email. okay, and then I create a validate email, that is if not filter underscore var, that is the email, comma, and validate filter validate email is triple equals to false. Same, everything is same. If this happen, then print email is valid email, or else email is not valid. Now we will understand how you can validate an integer within a range. So this is the example code. We are going to see this deeply. So I use the PHP and then variable to check the integer within a range. So I use int variable and with value 1 to 2, another variable with mean equals to 1, and max value, that is max variable equals to 200. And I use the if statement filter underscore var, and then int, that is 1 to 2, comma filter validate int, comma the array part. I use the array part here, and the options are array min range is min, max range is max, then triple equals to false. okay, so if this condition is work, then it will print variable value is not within the legal range. okay, or else it will print variable value is within the legal range. Validate URL must contain query string. This is example of validate URL must contain query string. Here I use a URL variable, that is https :/codeworldindia.com, and I use if not filter underscore var, and the URL, that is https :/codeworldindia.com, this is the URL, comma filter validate URL. It will validate the URL, it's right or wrong. Then filter flag query required. okay, it will filter the query that is required, and triple equals to false to check it, and then it will print URL is valid URL with a query string, or else URL is not valid URL. Our upcoming topic is callback function.